Just look at that last verse again of Psalm 65. The meadows are covered with flocks and the valleys are mantled with grain. They shout for joy and sing. And so, if creation praises God like that, then certainly we should do the same. Created beings made in God's very image with the capacity to actively observe and to lift up our voices to the God who made all things. And so, now addressing people, shout for joy to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. So great is your power that your enemies cringe before you. All the earth bows down to you. They sing praise to you. They sing the praises of your name. This is a God who cannot be ignored. His power is evident, it's overwhelming. And even those who rebel against him are forced, in a certain sense, to acknowledge his majesty. Even those who oppose God will eventually have to recognize his supremacy, though it does seem they will have to recognize it begrudgingly, frustratedly, unhappily. But nevertheless, it is true that all will recognize the wisdom and power of God. In verse 5, the psalmist is inviting us to see what God has done. And this time, it's not just in creation, but in salvation. He doesn't point at the meadows. Here he points at Moses and the men, women, and children who followed him out of Egypt. Come and see what God has done, his awesome deeds for mankind. He turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the waters on foot. Come, let us rejoice in him. He rules forever by his power. His eyes watch the nations. Let not the rebellious rise up against him. This is a God who is actively involved in the history of humanity. You see how these things hold together. He turned the sea into dry ground. That's past historical fact. He rules, present. He rules forever. That is future, by his power. And so the God who acted then is actively at work right now. The God who delivered then delivers his people right now. This connection between past, present, and future is crucial to our faith. We don't serve a God who was powerful once upon a time. We serve a God who is continually, immensely powerful and has demonstrated that power in history and in the present and has promised to do so in the future. When we face apparently impossible situations, we can remember that our God specializes in making ways where there seems to be no way. He's done it before, and he will do it again. In verse 8, there seems to be a kind of thematic development in the psalm, a recognition that praising God is not always easy, despite these realities that we've just considered. Sometimes we go through really hard times, and our trust in God doesn't simply do away with the difficulty we experience. He has preserved our lives and kept our feet from slipping, the psalmist says. For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. You let people ride over our heads. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance. That metaphor of silver refinement is particularly powerful. It is refined by being subjected to intense heat, which burns away the impurities. The refiner doesn't add anything to the silver to make it pure. He removes what doesn't belong. And similarly, God's testing in our lives helps to shape us into the people he is calling us to be. Again, this is a theology of suffering that we would do well to recognize. Not that we would walk around fire or across water, but do you see? Through fire, through water, and into the place of abundance. Sometimes we see our challenges and difficulties as evidence of God's absence, or perhaps more scarily, evidence of his displeasure or dislike even. But that is not true at all. And because of that, the psalmist is able to say that God rescues us. He brings us out from under these burdens and into a spacious place. And so the response of these things is worship. I will come to your temple with burnt offerings and fulfill my vows to you. And what follows is a scene of worship, sacrifices being offered to God. He's saying, my whole life was rescued by you. All that I have belongs to you. It's the least that I could do to sincerely and generously bring these offerings as a sign of my gratitude to you. And then finally, the psalmist gives this encouraging and evangelistic cry that all people would hear what God has done. If I had cherished sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. So what is he saying? Turn from sin, and the Lord will hear your cry. And so the path laid out in this psalm is an awareness of sin and the accompanying suffering of living in a fallen world, salvation, which is God's glorious answer, and then song, which is full of praise, freely bringing offerings to God. And then the psalmist doesn't just keep God's salvation to himself, he is sent to speak to others and call them to respond. Sin, suffering, salvation, song, and sending, and this is the pattern of our life too. My guess is that most people watching this video have understood their sin and the suffering that accompanies it. You would have asked God to save you and experienced his salvation. And so the question is, what about your song? And what about being sent by him to tell others? Are you grateful in your heart for the things that God has done for you? And if so, are you calling others to come and see what this great God has done and how he will gladly save them too if they will put their trust in him?